Hello friends. Today we're talking with my relatively new client who moved to live in Montenegro about a year and a half ago. Let me introduce Ira.
Hello.
Ira, tell us how long you've been living here and what motivated you to move abroad and why did you choose Montenegro specifically?
We came here in May of 2019. We weren't necessarily planning to move to Montenegro. We considered several countries, including Panama. Uh-huh. Mm. We had been planning for about 10 years. Uh-huh. What motivated us was the desire for a calmer life for our children, good education, a calm, normal education, and of course, the climate. And the people,
All right. And which countries did you consider besides Montenegro and Panama?
we considered Finland. That was completely impossible. At first, there was Canada. The education there is very good, but we didn't qualify by points. Spain, that's it. By the way, Montenegro was actually one of the first countries we considered, but we couldn't move here earlier because the internet quality wasn't great and we work online.
Is the internet good enough for work now?
It's great.
Did you have to adapt to life in another country or did you just move and that was it?
There was really no adaptation at all. It felt like coming home.
Why did you choose Herceg-Novi specifically? Did you visit other cities before this, check them out, or did you just come to Herceg-Novi because you saw one of my videos?
To be honest, yes. I like Herceg-Novi from the very beginning. Thanks to communicating with you. Thank you, Dimitri, for inviting me specifically to Herceg-Novi. After we moved here, during the first 2 weeks, we traveled along the entire coast. But in the end, we decided that Herceg-Novi is the best place on earth.
Ira, what do you think in which other cities in Montenegro could you live? My opinion is pretty well known. I voiced it many times that the best city is probably Herceg-Novi. But besides Herceg-Novi, I also like Budva, I like Tivat, but I probably wouldn't settle in any other cities. Not because Montenegro is such a bad country with only 3 decent cities. It's just that it's tiny. There are very few cities here, so there really isn't much to choose from. So, in my opinion, it's these 3 cities: Herceg-Novi, Budva, and Tivat. Basically, you have to choose from just these. What do you think?
Well, it depends on what people like. Those who prefer a more active lifestyle probably choose Budva. If someone prefers, I don't know, a wider sea, then they like Bar. By the way, Bar is very similar to the modern districts of Samara.
Actually, I was thinking about that too. I kept trying to figure out why a certain part of the population likes Bar. Then I realized that this city is the most similar to Russian cities, and people choose what they're used to.
Yes, as far as I understand, people here manage to live high up in the mountains, somehow on their own little homesteads. If that suits them, and if they have a car, then basically it only takes half an hour to get to any city from here. There's enough time.
What do you think? You live in Herceg-Novi, in the top Plateau district, and actually I live nearby as well. In your opinion, what other neighborhoods in the city are good for living?
Many Russians praise Savina. I absolutely love Topla. In second place, I would name Igalo.
Well, basically, I don't know if you'll agree with me or not. I actually think that in principle, it's not that important. The main thing is not to go too high up into the mountains. The main thing is to be somewhere, well, about 500, maybe 600 meters from the sea, no higher.
Yes, but it depends on what people like. Some want to be closer to the sea. For example, I wouldn't want to live right on the first line by the sea.
But of course, it's tough, it's humid.
It's not even about the humidity. It's just that in the summer season, you'll have crowds right outside your window, and in the winter season, the sea is practically pounding at your door.
Do you ever feel nostalgic for your homeland?
Not at all. Not once. And I suspect I never will. Because, let me say it again, in fact, I experienced nostalgia the other way around when we went to Samara on business last November. On the 4th day in Samara, I said something that actually horrified me. I said, I want to go home to Herceg-Novi.
So tell us, how do people live in Montenegro? I realize that's a pretty broad question and maybe it's even hard to answer, but do you have an answer to it?
Yes, I do have an answer to that question. What do you mean, how do they live? In terms of, well, for example, here people go to cafes in the mornings to drink coffee. Why? Here, fathers take care of children just as much as mothers do. People here work a lot, really a lot.
Wait a second. It's well known that Montenegrins are lazy. You don't agree with that?
Now, that's an interesting question too. Yes, there's that joke. And Montenegrins themselves joke about it, saying Polako. And that a Montenegrin keeps a chair next to his bed because if you get tired of lying down, you can sit for a while. The thing is, Montenegro is diverse. Here, people from the coast, from the seaside, consider the northern Montenegrins to be lazy, while they themselves call themselves locals from the coast. They don't call themselves Montenegrins, but Bokeli. And they're proud that they mastered literacy here earlier than the Montenegrins and that they are more hardworking. And here, people really do work a lot.
All right. Here's a very interesting question that I think concerns literally every potential immigrant who wants to move to Montenegro. In your opinion, how much money do you need to live here? Let's put it this way. Let's take a standard of living where, let's say, you don't feel like a poor relative. And let's also consider a second standard of living, the minimum. How much money do you need just to survive here so you don't starve or end up without a place to live?
I know for sure that some acquaintances of ours from Bar once lived as a family of four on 200 euros a month. Plus, they paid 150 euros for renting a house.
Listen, yeah, I think that's impossible.
I agree. I also think it's impossible. That's why the three of us live on about 1,000 a month separately, plus rent and utilities.
That is approximately 1.5 for 3.
About 1,500 for three is enough.
Is it possible to survive on less?
Yes, it's possible. Yes, it is possible.
Which one?
Because before that, we lived on 700.
And why was that? Was it a tough time or what was the reason?
It was because we had a company barracks here and a salary, and for a whole year, my husband simply couldn't officially get a job at our company, so we had to live on just 700 euros.
Let me clarify for those who don't know. The year wasn't because he couldn't work there. He was specifically trying to get a job at Irina's company. It's just that a family member can only get a job at a company where the spouse is the director after a year, that is, after the residence permit is extended, then you can officially get a job. Whether it's your own company, your wife's company, or any other company, it doesn't matter. In the first year, the spouse, that is the person who received the residence permit through family reunification, does not have the right to work. Starting from the second year, they do. So that's what we're talking about right now. I'm just clarifying this. Otherwise, someone might think that the person just couldn't find a job for a year. Let's talk about the sites. In Montenegro, there are even more than 2,000 various cultural and historical landmarks. I'm absolutely sure that no one knows the complete list of them, probably not even the ministers. Yes, even the Montenegrins themselves don't know. Probably not even the Minister of Culture or the Minister of Tourism knows. But all the main attractions are well known, and I'm sure you've visited many of them. Please name the top 3 most interesting sites in Montenegro, in your opinion.
Okay. What we liked most were the Moraca and Tara canyons. We drank water from the glacial river Lutica. We liked Jablek with the Black Lake. And for me personally, of course, Plava Laguna, Plava Špilja, that's the blue cave in the area.
Not far from Herceg-Novi. Well, is blue. Okay, I'll agree. Although, I would probably swap the cave for Lovćen.
Exactly, that's just what I wanted to say. I like the cave mainly because I'm not much of a tourist and haven't been to many places, so it was something new for me. Many people say that yes, there are places just as beautiful elsewhere. Yes, it's just beautiful. But Lovćen, yes, that's an amazing place. Starting with the drive up the winding road, with every turn you see more and more of Montenegro. As you go, you can see 2 cities at once, both Tivat and Kotor. And from the very top of Lovćen, from the Njegoš Mausoleum, you can see almost all of Montenegro.
I agree. By the way, friends, I recently filmed a video about Jabljak and the Black Lake on my channel, probably about 2 weeks ago. Those are the two sites that Ira mentioned. So basically, I filmed them recently, so it shouldn't be hard to find in the feed. Take a look. These are really interesting places. It's best to visit them in the summer months, or at the beginning of autumn, or at the end of spring. You can also come in winter, but in winter it's not really for walking around and sightseeing, but rather for skiing. I've been to the ski resort there in the winter 2 or 3 times, but I'm not a fan of skiing. At least not a big fan. But overall, if you want to go skiing, the resort is quite decent. But it's more famous in the summer. In other words, in summer, the scenery there is simply stunning. And there are a lot of hiking trails if you enjoy walking. There are also plenty of sites you can reach by car. If I were to go skiing, though, I would probably go to Kolashin because the ski infrastructure there is better. Plus, on the way to Kolashin, there aren't as many winding mountain roads as there are on the way to Jabljak, so it's easier to get there in winter. Ira, another question for you. What does a child do besides school? The sea is obvious. I know you'll talk about the sea first. The sea is a given, but let's talk about things other than the sea. There's this myth about Montenegro spread by some Russians that supposedly there's nothing for kids to do. What do you think about that?
That's absolutely not true. Our child is busy around the clock. School doesn't take much time, and homework takes even less. But he has swimming on one of the best swimming clubs in Europe. with both swimming and water polo. And after that, he also attends music school, which is also very good and high quality. Um, um, Acting classes. Here it's called glum, and an actor is called glumak. That's it. Mental math. And last year he had drawing classes. Now, because of the coronavirus, drawing hasn't really been working out for us. So, in general, he definitely has things to do.
And where you want to go for drawing?
Those are private lessons. By the way, the teacher is Russian.
€5 an hour, right? I don't remember her name. Vika, I think.
Ludmila.
Maybe I got it mixed up. She lives on Savina. We go to her as well. My child also goes to drawing lessons. Suddenly developed a love for drawing. The most amazing thing is that he's actually good at it. I had no idea he could draw at all. Yeah, she really does teach well. By the way, she charges incredibly little. We even told her, come on, what sane person would teach nowadays for €5? But still, she keeps doing it.
And in February, they even held an exhibition of our children's drawings at the City Museum.
Yes, I heard about that. Ira, tell me please, what are the main advantages of Montenegro? Let's not talk about everything, just the main things. What do you like most about living here?
Peacefulness, a gentle, unhurried, and slow pace of life, a strong sense of safety and security, a pleasant, comfortable climate, and a clean, healthy environment. It's cheap. By the way, that's one of the advantages.
Well, cheap depends on what you compare it to. Compared to Russia, except for Moscow, it's probably about the same. If you compare it to Western Europe, then yes, it's definitely cheap here.
I'm comparing it to Samara. The price level here is about the same as in Samara.
All right, the pros, plus is great. But there must be some cons, right?
Okay, once again, I try not to look for cons, but it was really hard for me to get used to the different taste of mayonnaise here. It took me about 6 months. Everything else, no problem.
Well, you see, you only arrived recently, but for example, when we came here, we probably didn't eat sushi or dumplings for about 7 years.
Oh, yes, sushi.
Now you can get them, now it's no problem.
Yes, honestly, the first 6 months, yes. I kept thinking that I wanted Moscow pastries, I wanted manti. When we arrived in Samara, the first thing I did was run to my favorite bakery, bought everything I could, tried it all, and said, why did I even miss this? The taste was absolutely awful.
Ira, share some positive impressions.
Positive impressions. Dimitri, I have a question for you. When did that feeling pass for you? You know, when you step out onto the balcony, look around and say, damn, I live by the sea. For me, it still hasn't gone away.
You know, it was a little different for me. For 3 years, I had nightmares that I had to go back. For some reason, I couldn't stay in Montenegro. I went back to my homeland and was living there. For 3 years, I was tormented by these nightmares, but then, thank God, it passed. Then I realized that I would never return to my homeland again.
I also had a nightmare twice in a year and a half that I went back home to my homeland for some reason and lost my documents and suitcases. And I was running around unable to return. It really is a nightmare. It's terrifying to leave and not be able to come back here.
Yes, I understand you. Give some advice to potential immigrants.
First piece of advice. Do it faster. Don't waste 10 years of your life like we did. Those really are just 10 lost years of life.
I sorry to interrupt, I completely agree with you. I keep thinking, why was I such an idiot not to come when I was 20? Why did I wait until I was 37?
Me too. I keep wondering why did we wait. But it's okay, we made it in time. At least our son will get to live here happily for longer than we did. Second piece of advice. Be sure to choose a country, make a list of countries where you'd like to go, what's important in each, what's not, and definitely pay attention to the mentality of the people where you're going. For example, I wouldn't be able to live in a Muslim country. By the way, when I look at Montenegro, I see it as a country that has truly achieved equality between men and women. There is no struggle for feminism here. But here, a woman is genuinely an absolutely equal person, without any exceptions, without condescension, without any of that attitude of, well, you're just a woman. That's why mentality is the most important thing when moving to a new country.
Ira, thank you very much for the conversation. Friends, thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to the channel and stay with us.
Goodbye.